What's happening, guys? It's Friday, we're behind schedule, computer's running slowly. That must mean it is time for my game plan show. So, as usual, little wonky getting set up, but I think we're broadcasting. I think you guys can see my screen. We're a little bit crunched for time today. We're going live a little early. Needed me to jump on the... I hope you guys aren't getting like way too much audio here. Somebody give me a heads up in chat. My audio is like spiking in what I'm saying here. So if I sound weird, somebody let me know. So like I was saying, we're starting a little early because I got to be on the Deeper Dive show for baseball as a little surprise at 3 o'clock. So we're kind of going to do an extended baseball show. You're going to get my thoughts now that I'm going to be hosting that one. We're going to be getting some more of my thoughts because honestly, I can't keep my mouth shut about this stuff, which you guys know. But also Alex and Gun's thoughts, which are more important at that point. But since I haven't gotten any basketball stuff fired up or anything like that for today, I'm just going to kind of go through my thoughts for the slate like we've done a couple times on this show. I've got FC running in the background. I'm going to try and pull some lineups out of it. I've built a little bit more out in the lineup sorting tool, which I know everybody likes to see. So I'll drop some lineups into that and we'll take a look. I've got the stacks tool working. That was what I was working on last night. So I just want to show that off a little bit, show the formula for guys who want it, and we can go from there on how to evaluate your stacks a little bit better in what we've been doing. So just getting into it for people who like to catch my article every day. That went up about 10 minutes ago, just before I started getting things fired up here. So we've got the power index, the home run calls for every team, little pitching breakdown where I went through a few of the top end starters. And that's probably a good place to start. You guys heard a lot of my thoughts about this on the strategy show already this morning, but just to kind of refresh, and so you guys can actually see it, ignore that Kohei Orihara is at the top. That's just because he does not have a projection. So you can see these are my projections over here for pitching. So the one that came up really interesting to me that I talked about on the show, let me move that over a little bit further to make sure you guys can actually see it. The one that came up on the show that I found really interesting is Shane Bieber, who, as you can see, he ranks down my board a little ways, 32 FanDuel point projection as compared to the 45 on Cole that I have, the 42 on Darvish that I have, even Eovaldi projecting at 40, McCullers 38. I don't know that I trust the Smiley projection or the Pineda projection here, but they're both projected above him as well. Pineda only slightly, Smiley by a little bit more, another strikeout or so. But, you know, in terms of pricing, these guys are significantly lower than where Bieber is. Now, this is a median projection. Bieber could absolutely come out tonight, strike out 11 White Sox, put up a 65-point start, get a complete game shutout. That is all within his range of outcomes. It's just that he's in the toughest matchup out of all of these guys, right? Garrett Cole, in theory, against Detroit, should put up a monster number tonight. They are a terrible baseball team. Yu Darvish against San Francisco, if they continue to where they've been trending for this year, should put up a phenomenal start. They've been second worst in baseball striking out against righties, which I showed on the strategy show. Eovaldi against Texas, similar story. If their trends continue from what they've been over the last 2+ years, Eovaldi is in a spectacular spot for strikeouts. He's a guy who's struggled with finding an out pitch over the past few seasons and has bounced between using his slider and his curveball in that capacity to varying effect. In 2019, he got rid of his slider, went to his curveball, and it was disastrous. Then last year, he continued that and was awesome. This season, he brought the slider back a little bit and has had good, not great results. The strikeouts are a little bit down, but I think it's a great spot for Eovaldi. I like the spot less for Lance McCullers, but I love the price at $7,400 on FanDuel, $85 on DK. I think that just makes a hell of a lot of sense to get to some Lance McCullers at that price. So he's on the board for me. Why do these... Look at this. Again, these guys always call while I'm on the air. It's amazing. I'm going to ignore this. I just tried to walk down the street before and see if I could grab a shot because there's a hospital like a half a block away, and they have a little sign up in the window, right? So I walk in. I said, "Hi, I'm here to see about getting the vaccine or getting on the list for the vaccine." The girl looked at me like I had 3 heads. No idea what I was talking about. It took about 30 seconds. And then she said, "Oh, you mean the COVID vaccine?" It's like, as if people are walking in here demanding, like, you know, malaria vaccine and all these different, like, yes, thank you. Anyway, they were out of it, even though the site across the way over here says come on in whenever. So who knows? So that's my vaccine story for the day. At some point I'll get that in my arm. Anywho, I was talking Lance McCullers. I think the Tampa Bay lineup is a little bit better than some of these other lineups, than Texas, than San Francisco. So he's under a little bit more threat, but I love the price on McCullers. Smiley, if he can get through this start at that price, is phenomenal. I just am sweating the ballpark here big time. I think Smiley is an improved pitcher like we talked about on the strategy show. It is a tough spot. That's a good lineup. But a good veteran pitcher against that lineup full of kids, I still kind of come down on the pitching side in that one sometimes. Just in that ballpark where Toronto's playing right now, though, I am worried about that projection on Smiley. That's one where I'll probably use caps in Fantasy Cruncher to limit my exposures. Pineda, similar story. I kind of like that KC lineup, and I don't love the 8,300 price tag. If he was more in this 7,400 range, I'd like that. Like, I like Lance McCullers a hell of a lot better for 74 than I like Mikey Pineda going up against a better KC lineup for 83, which is borne out in the projections here. So, similar story, probably going to limit Mikey. I'll let Shane Bieber rip. I just don't know how much I'm going to get to him at this 12,000 price and that projection. It's going to depend on some of the ownership between Cole, Darvish, and Bieber, but I really like getting the Darvish at the discount here. 1,000 less than Bieber, 1,200 less than Cole. Very similar projection, excellent matchup. So really probably going to be looking at a lot of Darvish, a good amount of Cole, and then scattered shares of Eovaldi, McCullers, some Bieber. I love the spot for Heaney, like we talked about on the DK slate, where he's 6,800, which is totally inexplicable. He should be like 100% owned as an SP2. I mean, not actually 100 because it's baseball, but he should be wildly owned as an SP2 in that spot. It's just a spectacular spot. They strike out a ton against lefties. It's just a really, really good-looking spot. I talked about Keuchel on the show earlier. As you can see, he doesn't get like a crazy projection from Alex here, 11.36 on the DK side of things. The 29.33 is my FanDuel projection. He projects out a little bit better, doesn't project for a ton of strikeouts, but this is a high strikeout total. Like these are not an actual strikeout total. It's a weird number in my model that someday I should fix because it's supposed to be an actual strikeout number, but it works kind of with creating my projection, so I've always just left it alone. But I do not think that Dallas Keuchel is going to push 7 strikeouts tonight. So that's kind of a limiter here, but I do believe in this projection. So I'll have some Keuchel. I typically do. He's always so low owned that it's easy to get over the field, have a few shares of him, and if he connects on that high strikeout game, so much the better. Below that, not really anybody I want to get to. Pablo Lopez, I talked about on the show, thought he was going to come up better for me and is not really projecting well against that Washington lineup. So I'm curious about that spot. It looks like he's around middle of the pack for Alex as well, but probably slightly higher based on that DK projection. So I'm curious about that one. Might dig into it a little bit more. Nobody else really that we're missing out on down here in the Chase Andersons, Freddie Peraltas. You could argue Madison Bumgarner with me all day. You could argue Marcus Stroman if you want to. But my pitching takes are going to be more toward the top of the board. I do think Tarik Skubal is a pretty good rookie in the right spot. I do not think this is the right spot with the Yankees going up against him. And then we talked about some of the offense. I want to reiterate on Cincinnati. I think they're in a terrific spot. I wrote them up in the article. You guys can catch more of my thoughts on hitter by hitter in there. But I think you've got some great stacking opportunities in this top 6. I wouldn't even really sleep on Jonathan India or where you need a catcher, Tucker Barnhart. Hits from both sides of the plate, a little bit matchup proof in the later part of the game. Not expensive, not popular. So where you need a catcher, he makes some sense, even though he's at the bottom of the lineup. India, not a big-time power guy, but a very good hit tool, very well-regarded hit tool for a rookie. So kind of like what he can do for you as a sneaky option there. But I love on DK in particular, these price tags suck, but it's keeping the ownership way down on these guys. So nobody's going there. So on DK, they make a ton of sense if you can figure out a good way to pay for it. Using Heaney as your SP2 there makes a lot of sense to help pay for it. And then on FanDuel, they're just kind of underpriced across the board except for the top 2, which is, super, super appealing. Even with this, mid-range ownership on these 3 guys who are in the heart of the order, who are guys we definitely want to get to, you can utilize the 3% on Naquin. You can utilize the under 10% on the top 2 hitters to offset some of that. You can put them together with different stacks. It's a 14-game slate. Regardless of how much a 4-man stack is owned, you can put it together with other things. They're going to be different from other constructions. So I'm not as concerned about individual ownership or cross-stack for one of my stacks ownership. I just don't want to put super chalky stack, super chalky stack, super chalky pitcher all together. Make sure one of those at least is somewhat contrarian as you build. The Cubbies against Miley are also in an interesting spot, but I'm concerned about the power upside. in my model here, you can see we're very capped on where we're going with power. As you can see on the other side, going up against Arrieta, some better power numbers. Those aren't standout power numbers either, but I think there's a little bit more sneakiness in the Reds' power upside there. The Mets are popping for me in the power index. Both New York teams are at the top of the power board for me today, which you can see in the new power index feature in my baseball article every day. So you can see everybody on the Mets is above 10, which is crazy. That is a big, bold number. I used Frankie Lindor as my home run pick today. I think he's in a terrific spot. They're getting some ownership up on the top of the lineup, but everybody's sleeping on like J.D. Davis, Dom Smith, Jeff McNeil from the middle. McCann, similar story where you need to roster a catcher. That's a good catcher option in a good offense, in a good matchup, in a good hitter's park. No reason not to go to James McCann there for $4,000 on DK. You don't have to go to him on FanDuel, but you can if you want to mix him in and use him to offset some ownership and some salary. $2,200 on the FanDuel slate. He makes a ton of sense. But you can see very strong projections for the top end and through the middle of this lineup. So a lot to like in the Mets lineup. What do they have? 4 lefties in the projected. So I haven't pulled any starting lineups. These are going off the projected. But on tonight's slate, I think we're getting mostly projected. Let's see who else was standing out. Oh, the Yankees. We'll get there. Actually, this was an interesting one to look at too. I mentioned Smiley and my concern about the ballpark, but you can see the Blue Jays numbers aren't rocketing through the roof in terms of home runs. Their projections are fine, but they're getting a little bit owned. So I'm not totally sure if I'm going to this. I'm not totally sure if I'm going to that. But these numbers intrigue me here. The home run marks on the Braves. I really like the Braves offense. I like getting to them a lot. We've seen them come through a number of times already this year. They came through like crazy all through last year against lefties, against righties. They are not highly priced on FanDuel, which is a common story going on through these early slates. But you can see all these guys through the middle are super cheap. They're getting some ownership, like 34% on Acuna. That's going to take Acuna not off the board, but it's going to make me want to undercut Acuna as a one-off. But as a part of stacks, it's foolish to leave him out. I don't think there's any reason to really leave him out. You get Freddie Freeman in here. I'm not really concerned about Freddie Freeman going lefty-lefty against anybody, Robbie Ray included. And then you get all these righties and switch hitting Alzi Albies. Mix and match your way through these. I like Austin Riley, sneaky down here. Nice little power mark on him. Dansby Swanson, similar story. Shortstop I like a lot. Has nice power stroke. So get to all these guys in here. Mix and match them together, and you can get to anybody that you want in that Braves lineup. Not really worried about it. Heredia has come through a couple times already. I don't think much of him as a hitter, but he does come through, and he has been a part of that stack regularly. So I wouldn't even necessarily leave him out, even if he's hitting toward the end of the lineup in at least some shares. And then the Yanks I wanted to look at here, and we'll switch over to taking a look at some lineups real quick. Yanks going up against Skubal, who I mentioned I do think highly of as an eventually pretty good pitching prospect. You saw 27.6% strikeout rate from him over 32 innings in his debut year last year. 4.81 xFIP. Hey, he's a rookie. He's getting used to the pitching in the game. Down to 19.3% with a 13.6% walk rate in only 19 innings this year. All of this is happenstance, right? The kid's a better pitcher than that. I don't know if he's this pitcher yet, but he's somewhere in the middle right now. Unfortunately, he's a lefty pitching against this righty-heavy, ridiculous power lineup in Yankee Stadium today. All signs point to this kid getting lit up, so he will probably come out and strike out 12 Yankees and put up a great start. But you can see the Yanks are obliterating the top end of the power model. If I was going by just off the top of the board, Giancarlo Stanton would have been the top would have been my home run pick today. 27 is the top end home run mark on the board in my home run model for the day. As you can see, all the Yanks well above 10 as well. So that's a great spot for power. People are going there, but not quite as much on some of the guys in the middle. Again, like you can get to Judgy at 18%. This might come up once he's confirmed in the lineup. People didn't know whether he's going to be playing today since he's been out the last couple. And then Glaber at 2,400, like I said on the show earlier, is just a total misprice for the talent in that kid's bat. But getting down to like Aaron Hicks down here, Clint Frazier down here, Higgy if he's in the lineup, even the hated Rougned Odor, this is a much more appropriate mark. If Rougned Odor, that's tough to say. If Rougned Odor is under 5% owned on this slate, then sure, fire away at 2,600. It's a power bat, you power lefty in Yankee Stadium, fine. My only concern with him earlier in the week when you heard me bad-mouthing him was that he was going off at this type of ownership, which was wildly inappropriate. So Yanks in a very good spot here against Skubal. So we'll definitely see a lot of them, I think, popping up in the model. And then there are some other good spots on the board. Like I think the Angels were one of them, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm trying to do this by memory so that I can talk through it while FC's running. Yeah, we're getting good power marks on the Angels, and only really Trout getting any ownership here. They're going up against Flexen, who has been okay since coming back from the KBO, but not in terms of his strikeout rate. It's down at 21.6, league average-ish type of a strikeout rate. xFIP is 3.55, which is nice. 5.2% walk rate over his 23 innings. So there's reason to hope for Chris Flexen, but I think in this spot we are we're pretty okay to roster some of these Angels bats against him. I really like the home run spot for Ohtani. Get to some of these lefties, Ohtani and Walsh in that lineup. And then, Mike Trout is obvious. But Anthony Rendon, only 5% owned on FanDuel at 3,500. That's a mistake. Only 6.6% owned at 4,600 on DK. That's also a mistake. So just pop Rendon in there. It's kind of a no-brainer in the middle of that stack. If you want to build in Fletcher from the top, I'm good with that. I've talked about him a bunch this season. I like getting to when he's not owned at all, cheap price, flexibility at the positions, and a guy who gets on base in front of these guys we're expecting to hit these home runs. And then I think this runs down at least through Pujols at the 7 spot. I can roster Pujols and Upton at no ownership whatsoever. And then if you want to get some Iglesias, I don't totally hate it. He was sneaky for power in 2019. As you can see over here, 11 home runs in 288, 318, 407 triple slash. The on base and the slugging aren't great, but 288 average is fine in 530 plate appearance sample. 373 average and a 400 on base and a 556 slugging percentage out of him over only 150 plate appearances last year. But those are solid numbers. So he's sneaky. He's not somebody a lot of people are ever on. Only 2,200 on the FanDuel slate if you need a shortstop. 3,200 on DK. So that and Kurt Suzuki at the bottom. So 1 through 9 in this Angels lineup are somewhat interesting against a kind of a rough start for Chris Flexen here, I think. So that's the one of the later ones that I think is more appealing there. Let me jump over to the DK window here. Or, excuse me, the DK window, the FC window. Did that freeze my crunch? This has been stopped this whole time. God damn it. Well, at least we got 46 out of it. Refresh later, please. Oh, is it still running? Might still be running. Well, we'll take our 49 lineups and be happy about it. So let's just see how they broke down real quick. Ton of Eovaldi. I just threw in 25% caps on the pitchers for now and 55% randomness with my projections. And then I ran 4-4 stacks for FanDuel. So that's what this is based on. So you can see a lot of Eovaldi, a good amount of Darvish like I thought, a lot of McCullers like I thought, more Smiley and Pineda than I thought, and less Cole than I thought I'd be getting to. And I forgot to change the slate, so we got some JT Brubaker in there, which is a pain in the ass for when we go sort this thing, but that won't really matter because we're not doing a real sort. So let me just grab some of these. Always remember to select your slate when using Fantasy Cruncher. Always remember to export for the right slate. That nearly got me yesterday on the early slate. I accidentally exported the main slate. Luckily, I was like a half hour ahead of time, so when it hit that can't upload any lineups, I didn't have a heart attack with 4 seconds before lock. I had plenty of time to go back and grab it again. But it was a pain in the ass after having gone through all the sorting and kind of hand curating the lineups I wanted and all that stuff. It was popped up as no good, so I had to do it over again, which was fun. All right, let me grab those lineups, and we'll jump back over here. So this is the sorting tool that I've been showing the last few times we've done this. I'm going to drop those in here. Zoom back out. I was zoomed in so I didn't have to squint at this damn thing while I was working on it last night. So you guys have seen most of this before. This is using this formula to pull the Fantasy Cruncher data off of it and just deliver the names, lay out the lineup across the row. This is searching, pulling my projections, totaling the projections up. We total the ownership up as well. The ownership's just hidden between here and here. But what I added last night is this new part over here. In between the totals here and the rankings, which would populate over here. This column ranks the projection as a percentile. This one ranks the ownership as a percentile. This one is creating the total. Right now, I'm going back and forth for different slates, and I think this is important. Different slates require different looks. So I'm going back and forth. Right now, this is using the way, actually, that's important as well. The way this is totaling right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing the sum of the hitter projection times 1.5 plus the pitcher projection, which I think is getting me to interesting totals, right? These look like upside totals that you see in tournaments. So I kind of like the track that that's on in terms of the lineup projection and how I'm grabbing that. And then when I total out the ranking percentile, I'm going heavy on projection. This was what I did for part of last night's slate. Going heavy on projection and then just light on the ownership. So you can change these weights. Sometimes I'm doing times 1.5 for the projection. Sometimes I'm leaving them flat. It all just depends on what I'm getting. I'm not sure where I'm going to be tonight. I gotta mess with it. It's a work in progress. But what I added, like I said, is a stack breakdown. So these are all 4-4s. Given more time, I would have mixed in some other ones. But what we're doing is we're searching back against. I should show where I pulled. Let me hide these. Open these. Or maybe not. Going on hide. There we go. So same idea as with the pitching. I'm pulling the teams, right? It's just looking up against the list of players over here and pulling each guy's team and laying it out across those positions. So this is that first lineup by teams. Leaving out the pitcher, this first one explores this row and finds the most common return. Now, it's a 4-4, so the most common, it could go either way. But with like a 4-3, this would find the 4. And then I have it counting all the ones where if it matches this, just deliver me the count. So I can see, all right, these are 4-mans. Let's see how that changed, right? I put Baltimore. I just typed Baltimore in here. So let's pretend like this was a 3-man, 4-3. Now we get a return here that it's a 4-3, and it's telling us over here that it's a 4-3-1. So these get a little complex once you start going from. That's how you pull the first one, but as you can see, the second one gets a little bit clunkier to pull the second, and then if you get to a situation where now that's a 3-3-2, right? So now we're pulling a third stack in here. This is where we get the formula for the third stack. So you can freeze frame that and figure that one out. So that's telling it all these different checks. If it's matching them, return the next one. If it's matching that, return the next one. And then it eventually just boils down to an if error. It's either returning the stack or it's returning a blank, a dash for a blank, which is this last little piece here. Google is your friend for these things. I was wrestling with this for a long time until I found a good Google Answers, Microsoft Answers page, I think, that had a version of this that really helped me along. So that's how I'm pulling those. It's doing the same thing here where it's just checking this for how many times it matches over here to deliver the information that I want here. I'm going to have to remember to change this back, but I'll leave it for the example. And the reason I want this is not only so that when I get the rankings sorted, I can see which teams I'm getting to. I can also see what types of stacks I'm getting to, right? And the way that I'm pulling the stacks is actually relatively easy. It's just doing a bit of a cheat with the concatenate code, putting this, that one, and that one together with an if statement for if it's 4, and if this one is 4 and that one is 3, put a 1 in there because it wasn't telling the difference between 3-3-2 and 4-3-1, I think it was, at a certain point. So that's how I got it to kind of cheat its way through that. There's still one where, 4-4 is delivering 4-4-0, which is fine. I'm willing to tolerate that. So anyway, the reason I wanted to do this is so that now 8/8, these are all the errors, the 8/8. So now you can drop this down, and if this was fully populated, there would be 4-3 there, 3-3-2 is there. Let's say I had 4-2-2s would be there, all those different things, and then you can select. All right, show me only the 3-3-2s. It's going to take all those other ones away, and show me the 8/8s as well. These are all the errors, like I said. So it would be able to cut down based on which types of stacks I want. Similar idea. I can now cut down by, all right, I'm not getting enough KC stacks, so just give me the KC stacks. And now I can grab my top ranked KC stacks from over there with a quick little action. So that helps. And then next step is to build in some weighting mechanism over here to influence how much of these come up in rankings over here, or I might just drop that in over this way somewhere via my home run mark and do like an average home run hitter power index model number that gives top stacks a little boost. But that's just some of the new stuff I'm doing in the sorting tool and how I'm building that thing out and building it back out to where it used to be in the old clunky shitty version that did not work. And hopefully this one will work better. And then of course we're going to build out a bit more on over here about the percentages to which we're getting these different things that I have to go into my NBA model and steal what I built over there and put it back into here. So bit of a work in progress, but that's I was happy with how this came out, so I wanted to show you guys that. And again, here's those formulas. If you want to steal them, by all means, please do. This is how I got most of this stuff from me, how a lot of people get most of their stuff. And that is what we do around here, so happy to share. And just the concatenate one. All right, so that's a little look at the new progress in the sorting tool. It's some of my thoughts about baseball. I'm going to get out of here, guys. I hope it was helpful. I know we didn't do too much like DFS-y game planning kind of stuff, but we're going to be on the MLB Deeper Dive in about 10 minutes. I'm going to be hosting that one with Alex and Gundacker. So we're going to go through all this stuff about this slate again. It'll be my third time through for today, so hopefully you guys can get all my thoughts. I'll be hanging around in Slack and everything through the day as we build lineups and all too. So I appreciate the short hangout, everybody. Sorry we kind of flew through things, but hopefully everybody liked it. Hopefully the Excel stuff was valuable. We'll bookmark this one somewhere so that you can go back to it. And with that, I'm going to grab a couple minutes to get a glass of water, put the cat away in the bathroom so he's not meowing through the show. So I'll catch you in a few minutes.